This is awful. Ford is seeking a patent for a new system that would allow them to gradually shut off features in delinquent customers' cars, like seat controls, automatic locking, and windows, as well as air conditioning and the infotainment system. After enough missed payments, the car would simply drive itself away. Is this the most dystopian timeline, Luke?
Yeah, it also sounds like so ripe for abuse and hacking.
Seat controls, you could make a very strong argument for how dangerous having an improperly adjusted seat could be. If you're sitting too close or too far from the steering wheel, that could be a life or death issue. I mean, honestly, man, you could say that about almost anything.
Automatic locking?
Yeah. So, okay, man, my aunt had the wildest experience. Downtown Vancouver. She's just driving,
and someone tries to get into
some
car.
lady just like got in her car.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I need a ride here. And you don't know, do they have a knife? Do they have a gun? Do they have a syringe full of AIDS? Like, you don't know what they have, but just got in the car. And she was terrified.
Yeah.
As it turned out, she drove her where she needed to go, and she like got out and left, which is like lucky, right?
Yeah.
But so someone's automatic locking is not working, and then and that happens. Who's liable?
Yeah.
Does Ford just basically go, well, you should have made your payments? And, fair enough, right? There's no free lunch in this life. If you don't pay for something, you are effectively, you have stolen it. And it is now Ford's property and not yours. But holy shit, like, it can't go down like this.
And like the ability for someone to just steal your car we talk about vulnerabilities in cars all the time. We talked about vulnerabilities in Kias the other day where people could just steal them willy-nilly, and it took an actual extreme amount of exposure to get them to do anything about it. I think it was Kia and Hyundai. I think it was both. You think this is going to stay secure forever? What about in 10 years when this car is still on the road?
Yeah.
What about in 15 years when the car is potentially still on the road?
That's something I really worry about with Tesla. They have so many different revs of their cars. Like, they don't have model years the way that traditional car companies have model years. What is going to happen when they don't feel like dealing with the software baggage of all those Model 3s with LiDAR that like don't have as good of a camera system and like used supplementary LiDAR, and what a pain. Or anything. I worry a lot about that. And it's a really good point. Like, the automotive industry in general, and to their credit, Tesla has probably the best reputation out of all of them, but the automotive industry in general is terrible when it comes to maintaining software. So anything where I have to trust them to do anything post-purchase, I write it off. It doesn't exist to me.
Potentially take your car back remotely.
Yeah, so that's not cool. The technology to do this has yet to be developed, apparently, but it is at least theoretically possible given the current trajectory of self-driving cars. And a few days after this patent was filed by Ford, they announced the creation of a semi-autonomous driving subsidiary within the company. The idea is not entirely new. In some places, it is legal for dealerships to install remote systems that beep incessantly or even kill switch the car from customers who are using credit in the event that they don't pay. Our discussion question is, what is the likely consequences of having these sorts of backdoors? I think we've kind of gone through it. Luke and I are not in favor of this, I think is pretty fair to say.
Yeah.
It's dystopian. It's dystopian. And I'm not using that word lightly. It is.
This is it.
Also a car-related topic. Streamer has van stolen. The internet gets it back. Our source is Ludwig. This guy.
Yep.
What great hair. You know?
Fantastic.
Like, that's not fair to other people to have hair that good. Anyway, 2 days ago, Ludwig announced that his prized 1997 Subaru Sambar microvan had been stolen from outside the warehouse where he films after a storm knocked out the power to the electric gate. Ludwig's assistant and a collaborator managed to track down the van that evening. Unable to acquire police assistance, they entered the van only to find someone in it. The man seemed confused and told them he didn't steal it, but was given it by someone who owed him money. He then offered to return the van if they gave him $10,000. After they decided to call the police again...
Which it's not even worth, by the way.
Yeah, we'll try that route. The guy took off in the van. At some point, he drove it to a massage parlor where it was spied by a Reddit user who had heard of the theft. The police finally showed up and the driver fled on foot, allowing the van to be recovered. Our discussion question here is that the Reddit has been obsessed with my new car, and maybe it's a positive thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah, they got to know everything.
That you
then
guys
you have a little army.
That you guys know what car I drive, so that in the event that it gets stolen, you can help me recover it. So I've been kind of easing into it, as some of you have noticed. No, it was never a leak. Every time there were glimpses of it or whatever, it was intentional. I just didn't want it to be like, surprise, I finally bought a fancy car. So I think it made its first appearance in the heating the garage with mining video. And then I alluded to what dealership it came from. And then I think I mentioned Porsche's infotainment system a little bit after that. And then it showed up in the parking lot in the labs tour. So I've wanted it to be a bit of a... Did it have
the wrap on it?
Yeah. I've wanted it to be a little bit slower just because I didn't want it to be like kind of a shock by the time people are like, oh, he bought a fancy car. I wanted it to kind of be old news. So mission sort of accomplished. But my unintended consequence has been that it's created this intrigue. Like, I've talked a lot about how one of the best things we ever did for our privacy was to just announce the location of our studio and put it on Google Maps. Because all of a sudden, everyone immediately stopped caring.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of forgot that lesson, and I've been sort of intentionally, slowly, priming that, yes, I bought a fancy car that hopefully doesn't immediately make me a complete douchebag, but yes, I have a nice car now. So let's put it to rest once and for all. It's a Porsche Taycan. It's 2022. It's higher spec than I probably would have gone for, but the deal was
used.
Right.
Yeah.
It had just over 1,000 miles on it.
That's a pretty sweet spot to buy used.
Which is, it smelled new.
Yeah.
Yeah. But because it was used, there was no provincial sales tax and no luxury tax, which is a tax that applies to vehicles over a certain value where we are.
Which, by the way, the average sale cost of vehicles is creeping up to that luxury tax because all vehicles are just expensive now.
They've gone down a lot. I mean,
have
Tesla
they?
slashed their prices big time. You see how many more Teslas are in the parking lot? No.
There's a ton.
I was going to say, no, you probably didn't notice because you don't work in the office. But
Well,
yeah,
I
you come in for
still come
WAN
on
show.
Fridays,
Yeah,
yeah.
like 4 people bought Teslas immediately after the price drops. You see that? I don't think all of them have even been delivered yet.
Yeah.
Our parking lot is just basically
Tesla
looks like a
City.
Tesla service center.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, so yes.
But yeah, how they got the truck, minivan, microvan, I don't know, whatever. How they got that back was like actually pretty cool. Little community effort.
So yeah, if it goes missing, I can count on you guys, right?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.